And we are live.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are or you may be, whatever time zone from sea to shining sea, from the Eurasian trade zone all the way to the New York Eastern Seaboard. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just rambling. Welcome to Rogue Money Radio. And today we have our special guest, none other than the Avengers of global economics, global stratagem, or stratagem, as you might want to say. Team Rogue Money. Welcome, guys.
Yo, yo,
Hi,
yo.
everybody.
Got the Bankster Slayer on. We have Ken Schortgen. We have the Wolf. The Russian can't make it because it's unbearably warm. It's not cold enough for him to come out. So, anyway, what's up, guys? What's going on? What's new?
Well, I got to go on Robin Falkoff's show this morning, which was fun. And we talked all about the Manchester event. And since I got the blog I just wrote, we threw that up this morning. So we actually went through it almost line by line. And I think we may have found a few new people to come visit roguemoney.net just because of that.
Awesome. Good deal. That's fantastic. What about you, Ken?
Well, I've been doing writing a lot about Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, but primarily about the fact that I think it was something that you and Bix, or maybe in the Thursday show, were talking about, that CNBC is now getting on board. Fidelity, the brokerage house Fidelity, suddenly came clean, and they have a Bitcoin mining desk that they've been running for a while.
Wow.
But the other important thing is I truly believe that the future is going to be in gold and silver-backed cryptocurrencies. And the other day when I was on with you guys, I talked about Zen Gold today. But there's another ICO that's a crowdfunding ICO going on on the Ethereum blockchain, and that's called LNK, and it's a silver-backed cryptocurrency.
Wow. It's about time. You and I have been talking about this for quite a while now, Ken. Why doesn't somebody make a silver-backed cryptocurrency?
Yeah, and I also wrote an article a few weeks ago. I came across some historical documentation. Ironically, I can understand why so many analysts are saying today that a gold standard would not really function the best. Because if you take a look at it from about 1492, when they discovered the New World, to the end of to about 1873, are really the battle between the gold and silver, McKinley and William Jennings Bryan. Silver actually brought about the biggest prosperity in the history of the world. It built the Spanish Empire, built the British Empire, the pound sterling. It was the basis behind the Chinese currency. Our Constitution backs the dollar by what? Grains of silver.
Right, 34 grains of silver, I think.
And so if they go to a silver-backed a monetary system, I think that's where, because they always say that gold is the money of kings, silver is the money of merchants, and really that's what it is. It's the money of commerce. And if they want commerce to really explode, then they need to go back to silver.
Wow, interesting point. Wolf, what's new with you, man? What's on your radar?
It's something Ken wrote about, and he's one of the few that's a stickler on it, and it's all about the game of currency. Literally, you're talking about cryptocurrencies, but we wouldn't be talking about that if the dollar weren't dying. Cryptocurrency wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
What we're witnessing, just recently, is from what I read, China and New Zealand are doing some more trade in renminbi. We're seeing the dollar being rejected. It's getting pushed aside. Nothing's changed. All of it, that's still the same. And the beat goes on, but clearly it's all about currency. And I'm going back to something Ken wrote. It was several weeks ago, but it was just spot on. We're avoiding that issue, but that's what the game is all about. You got Moody's. Did anybody catch what Moody's did with China's rating?
Yeah, they lowered it or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, they had to do that because they China's becoming more and more the place to invest, the place to be, the place to cut business deals with.
Yeah, but your government debt to GDP ratio, it was abysmal. It went to 36.7%. Well, what is the US's? It's 100 plus.
Yeah. But our credit rating is fantastic because, after all, our markets are so liquid, Wolf.
Yeah, the worst part of it is the GDP's falsified. How bad is it really? 36%, Moody's decides to go and hammer it, and the U.S. still carries with Moody's a AAA rating.
Hey, Wolf, who owns Moody's?
If I could be wrong, but it seems to me that
who there's an individual.
It's an individual?
Yes, who was an economic advisor to Obama.
Oh God.
Warren Buffett owns Moody's.
Buffett.
That's all you need to know.
That's it.
That's all you need to know. The ultimate insider, the ultimate insider trader owns Moody's. And so he's going to do, that ratings agency is going to do what the government shills need him to do. That's all you need to know.
Absolutely.
The shift is ongoing. The game is still being played. Actually, the Saudi Arabian thing with Trump kind of got my attention, and for a perverse reason that has to do with business. When my book of business would get slow and I wasn't making sales, the regional sales director had a great line. He said, go back. He would always say, go back to your inventory, Wolf. Well, that's pretty good. You go back to your inventory clientele and you make phone calls. You go to lunches, and eventually you end up with potential new clients. We're going back to the same well over and over and over. That's what Saudi Arabia is. We're going back to the well with the same stuff. I thought, we got nowhere else to go. Nobody's doing anything with us. We're just going to the same well and cutting deals with the same guys that China and Russia really and truly don't want much to do with.
Yeah, but you know why they're doing that is because Saudi Arabia is right on the cusp of joining the Eurasian Economic Union and moving from OPEC up to the Russian consortium. And that's why desperately Trump is trying to keep them, because if Saudi Arabia goes, petrodollar's over. Completely over. It's already broken, but it's completely over. And if the petrodollar is not backing gold or backing the dollar, then the rest of the world is simply going to dump their stuff, and the dollar instantly devalues, and we're in third world country. So that's why they need that, and that's also why they're building up the war machine.
It's the only options they have. Literally, there's just about no other options.
Well, see, there's very few countries that the U.S. can actually get involved and try to overthrow now that Russia and China are making their way across Eurasia, the Middle East, Africa, etc. Zimbabwe is going to see about backing their currency with gold. My big joke was, just give it 6 months and the U.S. is suddenly going to try to overthrow Mugabe.
Wait, you're the one that wrote the article about 7, and I thought it was interesting, 7 new additions to the AIIB, and it goes unnoticed. Nobody's talking about any of that. How many can you name of any size, small, large, or otherwise, that have shook hands with the U.S. in any major agreements lately?
Well, what do we have to sell? Arms?
Exactly. Paper. And it's really amazing to watch this shift, and yet the sheeples stay asleep. That's the scary thing.
Yeah.
I was going to ask Ken to go back over those 7 new nations, because that was a great article you wrote, and we mentioned that the number of countries is now up to 77, which comprises 1/3 of the whole world's economy, and you use that phrase, a critical mass is now in place.
Yeah, I'm watching because there's, out there's approximately 204, 207 total recognized sovereign nations, but of those, only the top 170 have a GDP over $100 million. So most of those countries, the bottom countries really are insignificant. Although, guess what? What if they become the ones that the AIB wants to develop?
Yep.
Then all of a sudden, you don't have to worry about the U.S. because you've got virgin territory that you're bringing into the ASEAN and SCO fold. But going back to that, the key, one of the key ones that joined up was Argentina.
Yeah.
And to me, Argentina, let's see, Bahrain, Cyprus.
And Chile was one of them.
Yeah, Chile's on board with that now. And
Greece. Greece is a big one too, and I'm surprised Greece doesn't wait. See, Greece is an interesting thing because I think they have reached the point of no return, and I'm watching Venezuela to see when it gets to that point. The reason why is because there was a story that came out that the Greek police and the fire department, the first responders, now are standing on the other side of the rope with the protesters because there's a new form of austerity that's coming down so that Cyprus can get his little trickle of Troika money, IMF money, so they get imposed more. And what this new bill coming at the legislature in Greece is that they're going to go ahead and take back the promises of money to the police, and they're going to cut their pensions. Well, guess what? What happens when Maduro no longer has any hard currency? He's got approximately $7 billion US. What happens when he can't fund the army?
Yeah.
And so he's desperately I think Maduro's about to sell out to the Russians. Just let the Russians come in, take over control, not monetary control, but take over control of the oil. Control the production levels, etc. Get them involved in that, because Maduro is now willing to accept, help from any quarter.
Yeah, absolutely, man. He's got
he's the damn ignorant bus driver. Isn't it funny how most of the communist dictators are illiterate, ignorant clowns who really, they weren't intellectuals. They didn't walk into this. They just suddenly saw it reminds me of the movie The Postman. I don't know if you remember that from way back in the day. And the guy who played the general, General Bethlehem, I believe, he was talking to, what's his name? Kevin, and he says, you know what I was doing during the war? I was a copy salesman. Most of these people are a bunch of losers, just like over Silicon Valley. The geeks want to try to take over the world because they were beat up in high school, and now they want to show their revenge on the intellectuals and the real men.
Right.
Well, that's the way it is with most communists. You get somebody whose life sucks, they suck, but they walk into a certain situation of chaos, and they're able to seize power. At least Hugo Chavez, he was pretty intelligent. He set up some good things.
Yeah.
But Maduro, the bus driver, he's good for nothing.
Well, he's good. He's a really good dancer, though. You got to admit, Ken.
No.
I seen him tear up the dance floor doing his little merengue, his little bachata. Oh my God, he was like a dance hall queen. He was amazing. And his shoes were smoking on fire, and I understand why. That his last name is Maduro, which means the sweetness. I got it. It all made sense to me at that point, Ken. It really did.
Does that mean that he also shot like a 57 on the golf course the first time he played, like Kim Jong-un?
No, that's only Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un. Did you also know not only is he the fattest man in North Korea, but he could also slam dunk a basketball, and he has a perfect bowling score as well. Did you know that?
Oh yeah, I've seen the list.
He also supposedly doesn't urinate or poop.
Alrighty then.
Well, what do you guys have to say about Mark Zuckerberg saying that there should be a universal minimum wage? A universal life wage or something he's talking about?
Did he really say that?
He did, which is proof positive to me. How can you, quote unquote, run a business, but you don't understand the most basic concept of economics, number one. Number two, you don't understand the business cycle. And number three, it just proves to me that you're an idiot and your company truly is a front company for the CIA.
Speaking of headlines, and I'm wondering what the truth is, what's up with Trump's hatred apparently of Audi, BMW, and Mercedes.
Oh no, what's he doing now?
Yeah, no, I think you're taking that wrong, Wolf.
I don't
see that wrong. You know, if you read The Art of the Deal, the one thing you do is in public that you make outrageous statements, so that the other side will make outrageous demands, and you work to the middle. The fact of the matter is that guess what? Ford is shutting down plants. They're cutting people. All those jobs that Ford said they were going to do when Trump first came in or during his inaugural period. Guess what? We're already oversaturated with cars. So Trump is going over there and trying to downplay and disparage German imports, so that they'll have to export more and do all that. He's trying to get to rejigger the auto industry, but it's too late because the U.S. consumer is tapped out. So whatever you see in the surface like that, just know there's an underlying reason, and it's all within the art of the deal.
Oh yeah, our overcapacity came to mind, but I just thought it was a ham-fisted way. If he really said it, it was a ham-fisted.
Think about this: who came over and talked to Merkel yesterday? Barack Hussein Obama.
Oh, you mean Skinny was over there talking there?
Skinny was over there trying to weasel in on the NATO conference. And so Trump was like saying, hey, Merkel, you know what? If you want to play games with the has-been, then I'm just going to disparage your one of your biggest industries.
That's it. It is their biggest industry.
This is like theater for the. It's just bad.
It's theater for the profane.
Wolf, that's all politics is. It's a dance.
But it's gotten worse.
It's kabuki. Well, yes and no. If you've studied your history, going back to Tammany Hall and the yellow journalism of the early 20th century, what we see today was just as bad, or even the muckraking. Oh yeah, forget about it. It was big time.
We're also.
Think about it. We think about this. We think about this today. We're worried about our intelligence agencies and the deep state going off and doing its thing. I don't know if you remember the story, but at the Philippines, Teddy Roosevelt was sitting up there as Assistant Secretary in the Navy. It was like midnight on a Saturday night. Nobody's awake. And he gets a wire in that I think either the main had exploded or something had happened in the Philippines. And he went and ordered the fleet going there immediately. He didn't even stop to bother to tell the president or the actual Secretary of the Navy. He just went and did it himself. It forced McKinley's hand, and all of a sudden we had to go to the Spanish-American War.
Right.
So the deep state, these things done by these rogue entities, down in the bureaucracy, they've happened all throughout our history. So it's just now with surveillance and communications and the fact that we're a global entity and we can move at the speed of sound, speed of thought, it just is more prevalent and has more consequences.
Harvey Schlanger made that point in his interview this week that the British intel agencies, they never gave up the idea of gaining back the American colonies. And that goes back to the Civil War, which people think of as a merely internal affair in this country. No, it wasn't. They were very much involved in that.
It goes even back to the War of 1812. You know why the War of 1812 started? It's because we passed the 13th Amendment. That said that nobody was allowed to have a title of nobility.
Correct.
And so the British came, and their primary purpose was to go to every single courthouse in the 13 colonies and destroy any copies of the 13th Amendment. And today, nobody even remembers the 13th Amendment, and that's why we have under the bar, the British Accreditation Registry,
Esquires.
Lawyers are called esquires. That's a title of nobility.
Right.
Yep.
That's right. That's right.
But on a lighter note, in my home state, and I don't know about where you guys are located.
I'm located in this place. It's an interesting mix of a cesspool and wonderland. as well as high taxes and angry conservatives all wrapped up in one.
It's called the Bronx Zoo.
The
That's what
headline,
it is. Hey, I'm still mourning the death of Harambe, Ken. Let's not take it there. Let's not take it there.
the headline of the local paper was, and this is headline of the front page, the UCA, the Unaffordable Care Act, is looking at nearly 25% increases being demanded by Blue Cross so that they can survive. Keep in mind, inflation is nil. We don't have any inflation in property taxes and these things. It's only in the things that don't matter in our county.
Yeah. I mean, the things that these people come up with, man, the systems they build that eventually has an expiration date built into it, and they don't even realize it, man. It's hilarity to me. The arrogance. They just expect people to pay 25% more premiums. It's unbelievable.
Healthcare system broke.
What Obamacare did more than anything is it kept the younger generation from ever buying insurance, and so
we got to protect the snowflakes, Ken.
Well, if you don't have the non-sick people paying for all the sick people, but the matter is you know what? Frankly, one of the things I think Trump can do, if he really wanted to, making promises that are not part of the executive branch, and just publicly put everything on Congress. Congress should make the budget. Congress needs to change Obamacare. Congress needs to do this. And anytime these consequences come up, point directly at Congress. They are constitutionally supposed to do this, and keep pushing it. And maybe the public will start moving its ire from ever. Because whenever you hear in the campaign promises, oh, we're going to create a lot of jobs. No, you're not. The only thing the government can do is create an environment that might be conducive to creating jobs, but you can't create jobs. And Congress is the only one who can do the taxes, to do the regulations, to do any of these things. So that to me is what the president needs to do. He needs to say, you know what? Don't ask me about this. This is Congress's issue. Go to them. I'm going to deal with foreign policy. I'm going to deal with the domestic things I'm supposed to deal with. And you know what? If you were a real journalist, you'd understand these things. Now go talk to them.
Yeah.
Hey, V, have you noticed, this is just a sideline note, scanning the various news sites I go to, and it just occurred to me just now, I haven't seen Jared Kushner's name near as much as I had, 2-3 weeks ago. It was like you were seeing him as often as you were Trump's name. Now he's not showing up much. Is there a reason?
Well, he's back on the radar, man. He's supposedly been fingered by the FBI, and they're looking into him and his collusion with Russian salad dressing.
Yeah, I saw that. But that's a negative. In other words, this guy's he's not walking on water.
No, yeah, he's not. I think he's trying to. I think his image is becoming greatly tarnished, especially this week. There's two things that came out about Jared Kushner this week, and this week alone. Number one, the FBI thing. Number two, that he's a slumlord. Did that ever surprise anyone? Did you guys hear about that?
Yes.
That he had 20,000 units, and the 15 apartment buildings in Baltimore, where he evicts people even though they've legally vacated their apartment, fulfilling their lease requirements, and he goes after them for $5,000. It's the most insane thing in the world, and he doesn't make any repairs. His company allows people to live in rat-infested buildings with black mold. That's Kushner.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's his whole family.
That's his whole family.
His family is tied to all that. So all you got to do is look at when it comes to money, who are the goyim and who are not. Right. End of story.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. What else is on the radar, guys? What else piqued your interest this week? I mean, we had many things going on. We have the situation in the Middle East. Let's talk about that. Ken.
I was going to mention.
Let Bankster throw in.
Yeah, I've been wondering if our rogue manning writer, the Prince, is going to write something about that. I think I may post tomorrow an article that incorporates Joseph Farrell's his web blog this week, because he made a point in there. He quoted from an article that Newt Gingrich had written right after the Saudi Arabia deal, and Newt mentioned that not only has this deal been made to sell arms to Saudi Arabia, but also to transfer the manufacturing of the arms to Saudi Arabia, which has got to be the most colossally bad idea ever. But Joseph Farrell's speculation, and this is something that goes back several years for him, is that the Middle East is being set up for a massive fail. He thinks they're being set up to implode upon themselves.
I think so. Which, if this might sound crazy, guys, and please hold back your stones and your eggs before you throw it at me. You remember crazy Pastor Lindsey Williams?
Yes.
Yep.
Remember crazy Lindsey Williams? This crazy Lindsey Williams when he was originally with his first original inside source, which was Ken Frum, who was actually a real oil guy connected to that. Didn't he say that their original plan was to implode the Middle East, to completely destroy it? And you see whatever Ken Frum has said has pretty much come to pass, except for his news source, that crazy Lindsey Williams says. But if you want to find out what his news source is saying, you got to spend $50 and buy the DVD.
Yeah.
But anyway, on the side note. But it's pretty funny. I mean, that's exactly what's happening. It looks like they are, letting it implode, where they go back to being the Bedouin camel herders that they used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the fact of the matter is that the U.S., obviously the Middle East was a huge part of the proxy war between the Soviet Union and the U.S. As a matter of fact, the putting in of the Shah of Iran, the primary reason to do it wasn't because the previous guy was pro-West. It was because the previous guy was moving into the Soviet camp. Right. So they brought in the Shah, who was pro-West, and he was just a Maduro.
Oh yeah,
and
1,000%. But with a little bit more pomp, with a little more flair.
And the other side of the coin is, I think most of the Middle East has come to the realization that they really can't get rid of Israel. And what you're seeing, these little tit for tat terrorist things, well, hell, most of them are now run and funded and built and trained by the Mossad, MI6, and the CIA. Yep. So you don't know what really is behind, the thing. But the fact of the matter is once really Russia started building up again, and the smartest thing they ever did was to get in partnership with China.
Yeah.
The Soviet Union had fallen, and the days of Mao had gone away. Both Russia, through Putin, and through the previous leaders leading up to Xi Jinping, had built themselves up to where they could stand, face to face with America. America had decided that they were going to take the Wolfowitz Doctrine worldwide. We've stretched ourselves so thin, and because there was no real enemy for about a decade and a half after the fall of the Soviet Union, most of the money that went to the military went into other things. That's why the Pentagon was saying that they had lost, so many trillions of dollars. Who knows what it is? Is the deep space program? Is it something else? But the fact of the matter is that if you take a look at our military today, not only are half the soldiers being recruited from foreign countries with the promise of citizenship, this is why we never see them, because they're foreign soldiers and they are remaining in the Middle East region that are being recruited. But you take a look at the how outdated our armaments are. We're still using B-52s.
Oh yeah. Well, we're told the marketing drivel that they are wonderful launching platforms.
Wow. The C-140 at least. The C-140 and the C-145 at least got an upgrade to be able to use their C-3 electronic warfare techniques. But, the B-1 and B-2, talk about, boondoggles. And for the fact that now, if even Korea can have a satellite that will hold some form of nuke or EMP device, then really the aircraft portion of the triad is almost obsolete, especially with drones.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, man. And and that's not going to stop us from selling an F-35 down everybody's throats.
Well, we might send a Tomahawk up, and a guy sitting in a Ferrari will say they just fired a Tomahawk at us. No big deal. We can outrun it. We got a clear highway ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in Dubai and those areas, man. In the Middle East, you got nothing but highway in front of you. Just open it up. Tomahawk, a piece of junk.
By the way, there was a little interesting piece of news that good old RT put out today.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder if it's some of the, if you remember the story I wrote that Macron, Germany now really should be in fear of Macron because he's not necessarily a puppet of Angela Merkel. Yeah. He's a puppet of Rothschild and the whole Brussels European Union thing. Well, since he's come into office, there's a story out today. Denmark and other EU members may soon be forced into the euro. Huh. So we're starting to see where Macron's dream of having this European superstate, which supersedes all sovereign authority in every country, including France and Germany.
Oh, he's like the Antichrist, man. This guy's he's this young guy. He's married to an old grandmother who was his elementary school teacher or something like that. And they made a vow not to have kids, which just tells me he's gay on the down low. And if you're gay, you're gay. I don't care, whatever. But the point is that Macron's definitely gay. She's the beard. And now he's out there on this Euro connection thing, and he's got Rothschild links.
What's up with his handshake with Trump?
Well, he tried to avoid Trump, and then Trump caught him like the alpha dog that he is, and just almost squeezed the cordon bleu out of his hands, man.
By the way, there's something else coming up on the EU that's well under the radar. I wrote an article. It's sitting up in the Dropbox. Hopefully, it'll be put up on Rogue Money here pretty quick. But there is one thing going on. What's the one pigs nation that has not been in the headlines probably in the last 4 or 5 years?
Oh, I'd say Portugal.
Spain.
Yeah, that's my next
Spain, despite the fact they've still got 18%.
I mean, Santander is always in the news, and Santander has all the dirty laundry for the Spanish finance. But what else is going on with Spain?
Well, Catalonia. And for those who don't know, the region of Catalonia, which has Barcelona, which is up on the border of France and has a really significant port, they are now demanding that if a referendum is not put forth to allow them to secede, then they're simply going to do it. And if Catalonia is able to secede, guess what? They are not part of the EU anymore. They have not signed on. They'd be a whole virgin new territory, not signed to the Maastricht Treaty.
Right.
They are 30% or more of the GDP of Spain.
Yep.
And instantaneously, guess what? Being a port city on the Iberian Peninsula, I was looking at what China wants to do in the maritime map for the Belt and Road.
It's a perfect fit, Ken.
Imagine they would become one of the prime locations for the maritime route on the Belt and Road to enter into Europe.
Right. And what's the Euro weenies going to do, Ken? What are they going to do when they secede, and then all of a sudden Russia and China just comes up there with a naval force and decides to park? What are they going to do? Nothing.
Bingo.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
So I'm beginning more and more, Greece, Cyprus. It's any wonder that Varoufakis just, left.
Yeah.
Because Cyprus was concocted. He is a puppet of Merkel and of Schobel. But they
threatened his
the rest of Europe, Italy, are they going to call for elections? They should have done that already once what's his name, Renzi, stepped down. I don't think Beppe de Grillo, because just like we found out in France, the EU pretty much controls all elections.
Yep.
Italy is passionate, but they don't do revolutions. They do mafia tactics.
Correct. That's why I love
even in World War II, our intelligence agencies in the military during World War II hired the Sicilians to do covert acts the same way that Lawrence of Arabia used the Bedouin to do raids on railroads and this and that in the Ottoman Empire. That's what Italy's good for, but they're not good for revolutions.
No, they'll just break some knees, and Uncle Paulie will have the cement factory, and that's it. I was talking to Gus, and when Gus got back from Europe, he's like, the only country that's got balls left in Europe is Italy. Thank God, somebody's got a pair of functioning testicles and a spine. Jeez, and that goes for the women as well, Deb. So that's it's a good thing. It's a metaphor. don't feel offended, even though you're not that type of right. You're not easily offended.
Nope.
Oh man. Anyway,
the game hasn't changed. I almost get. This is not meant to sound arrogant, but I step back and watch, and I can distinctly recall about this time of the year, 2014, the alternative media was having a cow. Russia and China were about to sign the biggest energy deal ever. Yeah. And if they do it, the dollar's toast. Everything's over. That'd be it. Well, they did it, and time went on. Nothing happened. But it did. They did sign the deal, and it was a humongous energy deal. Then there's a year later, and the beat just keeps going on. What is it? China and the IMF. No, you can't get in. Well, then there was a dumping of $250 billion in treasuries. What happened? They're let in. It's almost laughable, but this transition is happening in stages. Fundamental platforms are changing in various ways. And if you are, and I'm speaking specifically to a U.S. resident person and any Western nation, if you're dealing with dollars, and Ken's one of all writers I read that harps on it's about currencies, you're just dealing with Russian roulette, but you're the only one playing. And you're in trouble. It's getting phased out.
Well, Wolf, I'll give my assessment on why, there's been a lot of people like, with China with all these infrastructure setups and all the gold they've accumulated. Why has China not dropped a nuclear monetary bomb? Because China does not want to make the same mistakes as the U.S. by being the polar reserve currency. They don't want to internationalize the yuan and then have to sell bonds and have to continuously print money just to sustain a single global currency. This is why they want to use gold.
Yep.
Because gold doesn't have to be continuously, created. It can be monetized as it sees fit, but it's not tied to the Chinese banks. The Chinese banks don't have to continuously print money. This is why Xi was so desperate to get the U.S. to come join the Belt and Road, because they want a multi-currency reserve. They want it to be split so that one single nation doesn't have the responsibility. Sure, if the RMB became the global reserve currency, yeah, they'd become immensely more wealthy. But as we see, at a certain point, the requirement of continuous credit creation will then start to eat away, and you become the debtor nation versus the creditor nation.
Correct. Absolutely. Did you guys see that all this ballyhoo about tax reform?
Well, I saw what Congress did when they heard about Trump's budget, and God forbid they were going to even cut one little tiny thing.
Exactly.
So that's out the window.
I mean, it's craziness. It really is.
We have an elite member that sometimes on, and his line is the best of all time when it comes to the government. You can't fix Washington. It's already fixed.
Yeah.
And it's,
you know what's funny? It's like the G7 got together today, right?
Mm-hmm.
And their number one topic, guys, of all the things they could discuss, what do you guys think they discussed the most?
Global warming.
Yes, climate change.
Chelsea Clinton came out today and gave a speech, said that it's affecting childhood birth, it's affecting her children, it's affecting her election options for 2020, that unless climate change is reduced, you won't be able to run for president.
Are you're shitting me?
exactly what she said. I'm just really just kind of making fun.
Because I was about to believe you. I was like, holy crap.
No, she did a speech and somebody did the transcription and it was gibberish. It was absolute gibberish. It was like run-on sentences, and it didn't have any context to it at all. Now,
well, that's Webster Hubbard's daughter, right?
I was going to say, probably if it was Bill's daughter, then she's got the syphilis that he has, or something like that.
I love it.
No, but here's one of the things I was going to say at the end of the last. One of the reasons why Congress will never be able to understand economics and finance, because lawyers don't deal with budgets; they deal with billables.
Yeah.
And all they see is how they can get more billables from the American people.
Exactly. Exactly right.
V, I tell you another real interesting thing to watch. What's happening, and this is in regards to this quote unquote memo that Comey had that was pretty much going to lead to the demise of Donald Trump. Now here we have.
You mean the one that he wrote on a napkin at a bar somewhere? That memo, CJ?
The bar memo that he wrote on a napkin, and that Shavitz and the Oversight Committee has requested the FBI. Shavitz has requested.
I love you. You butchered everybody's names. I love you.
He's requested several times for the FBI to turn these over, and they're refusing to do so. So, they issued a new ultimatum that, hey, we need this by June something. One of the things that I can come up with that I'm thinking about once Trump comes back, and there's been a lot of talk around him cleaning house within the administration. There's been talk about him creating, and I think it needs to be done, is creating a war room to counter the amount of disinformation that's coming from the media, to shut down the leaks that are occurring in the administration, but then more importantly, to figure out what is happening, because legislatively, the Democrats aren't going to do anything. Their entire game right now is just completely is to stall. That's all they have left. So, how is he going to counter that? And I think what Ken said was so important would be to shift the conversation away from the administration to the deadbeat Congress that doesn't get anything done.
Yeah, interesting. Unreal.
Speaking of war rooms and war games, right before we came on the air, did you guys notice Egypt is responding to the terrorist act today by launching an airstrike on Libya?
Wow.
And supposedly they launched it against terrorist camps, but within Libya's territory.
Okay, but which Libyan faction would it be? Is it going to be the faction that's aligning with the Russians and China, or is the faction that's in the U.S. back pocket, the quote unquote moderates?
Mm-hmm.
The moderates, the moderates that cut off the heads of 10-year-old boys. Those moderates,
right?
No, the whole thing is a kabuki theater. It's like in Vietnam. You keep showing body bags. You keep showing all this stuff. One of the greatest deceptions that the media ever portrayed on the Vietnam War was by making people think that we lost the Tet Offensive. We didn't lose the Tet Offensive. The only thing that they did was they showed an American outpost being attacked on Christmas Day, and they kept pushing the agenda and the narrative that we couldn't even protect our own bases. But the fact of the matter is that attack was a failure. But the media, all they have to do, it's what Randolph Hearst said back in the day. You bring me the pictures and I'll bring you the war.
Exactly.
Who are they trying to fool though anymore? The 4 or 5% of the total global population that is the U.S.?
It doesn't matter. Look at the snowflakes and the social justice warriors. The communists have won. If you control the education of the generation, then you control the people. But this is why everything's divided. This is why even the election was nearly a 50% split.
Granted, but that goes right back to U.S. and what's going on in the rest of the world. Is Putin is the most popular world leader. The Belt and Road Initiative, AIIB adds more guys. There's 90+% of the rest of the world out there.
Yeah, but this is not a country versus country type thing. This is the old British colonial model dying to the new free trade openness of
Absolutely.
China and Russia and Eurasia. And here's what's the thing is that with the AIB and all that, it's slowly encompassing all of Eurasia. I mean, think about this. When was the last time that Chechnya actually did a terror attack in Russia? When was the last time Georgia got upset at Russia? They don't. Yeah. Because all of a sudden they're recognizing that, you know what, the old Soviet days and the old, most of the animosity that occurred with Chechnya and that occurred under the transition from Yeltsin through the oligarchs that were run by Rockefeller and the little bits and pieces of war that was going there. Putin hasn't really bothered them, and so they're just now seeing the potential of economic growth, and they've got China as a backdrop. So, most of them are falling into place. There's still a few, Japan, South Korea, but even South Korea is riding the fence. They're not completely in America's camp anymore. And I think deep down, especially with the new South Korean leader, deep down, they are scared to death that the U.S. is putting in all of these military missile systems because it's just inviting an attack.
Yeah. Speaking of attacks, have you guys seen what's going on in Canada's housing market?
Yeah.
Forget Canada's housing market. What about ours?
Yeah,
oh, yeah, we'll get to that. Let's start with the Canadians and how it's connected to us. Who wants to tackle that topic first?
That's Ken.
Go ahead, Kenny.
Well, here's the problem. One, the capital controls that are being put in China to stop capital flight. Pretty much, the foreigners are not buying any houses.
Right.
Two, the foreign tax that was put on by the limp-wristed Trudeau has pretty much kept residential and commercial property as being a place to get out of the RMB and get your money elsewhere. Yeah. The other side of the coin is that the oil sands are starting to die away, so it's beginning to look a little bit like the North Dakota fracking.
Yep.
And they're not coming to the realization that we are in recession. We are in a global recession. We've been in recession. If you look at shadow stats going back to 2000, we have been, based on 1980s model numbers, we have been in negative growth every single quarter over the last 17 years, except one tiny little blip for one quarter in 2004 during the height of the housing bubble.
And Ken, I suspect that the overcapacity that you can see rather easily on car lots also exists in homes and inventory.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah, the thing is get this. Here's where I truly believe we have reached the apex of the housing bubble, and it's on its way down. Earlier this week, the first thing, I think it was on Tuesday, new home sales fell 73,000 in April.
Wow.
We had then the very next day, existing home sales dropped from 5.57 to, or what is it? Fell 2.3% in April. Guess what? April and May and June are the biggest months of home sales because school's out and everybody's making a transition to moves. But here's the kicker, okay? With the existing home sales going down, with new home sales going down, and yet prices are now at a record high. So
Right.
you have reached saturation, and guess what? As long as the Fed keeps jawboning that they're going to raise interest rates, then people aren't going to be able to afford the mortgages. It's getting to the point now that Bank of America is dropping its 20% down to 10%. And we have Fannie and Freddie, who are pretty much getting ready to take anybody in the subprime. They got to keep the thing going.
Yep.
It's never been about fixing the economy. In 2008, the U.S. economy died. All they have is they have it on a respirator. It's forced breathing and forced heart pumping, but there's no brain left. And so what did the Fed do? They keep pumping in all this money. What did the PPT do? Oh, did you hear on CNBC, Fast Money?
Yes. Yeah.
Asher Edelman, the guy that the modeled Gordon Gekko after.
Yeah.
in the movie Wall Street. He came out and said it right there. He says, hey, I'm not buying anything because I don't know when the PPT is going to pull the plug, and just jaws drop. You're not allowed to say that on TV. You're going to get shift.
That makes Zero Hedge and Yahoo Finance and some other places that they didn't want that to hit this morning.
No, they definitely don't, because that's what the truth. There, it goes along the same lines. There was somebody who WorldNet Daily. WorldNet Daily got their Twitter account stopped because of a Seth Rich thing, and guess what? It was the truth. But Twitter, Silicon Valley, besides the fact that they were funded by the intelligence agencies, they were given all this. That's why they give access to full surveillance. And, if you look back at the history of Mark Zuckerberg stole.
Yes, he did.
He didn't create anything. He usurped his way in, probably with some help from the deep state.
Yep.
And from what people have said, the thing about the universal basic income, he's throwing that out there because he's looking at making a run in 2020 for the presidency.
That douchebag.
Some people who know him say that he is such a psychopath that he sees himself as the emperor of the world.
Yeah.
He refers to himself sometimes as the emperor.
Ken, imagine you, and you're a big guy, dude. Imagine you in the room with Zuckerberg for 5 minutes. I think you take his nose off his face and put it in the back of his head.
That was after I threw up.
After you throw up, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, he just gives off that oily
I'm going to start an online petition demanding that Facebook turn over all profits per quarter directly to all the people who contribute to Facebook. That way Zucker can put his money where his mouth is.
Exactly. And then there's
no. Liberals never give of their own accord.
Correct.
See, that's the thing. If a liberal says that they want to just redistribute the money, do you think Barbara Streisand is giving up her house and her millions? No. Liberals expect everybody else to pay.
Refugees after lecturing the world that we should take refugees?
Like George Clooney, when some refugees got too close to his nice little chateau in France or in Italy.
Yeah. Called the cops, went ballistic.
No, I think we're coming to a head, and this is one of the reasons why they're just, what we're seeing in the university, especially with the liberal professors and all this stuff. It's really accelerated ever since Ferguson. This is a psyop. This is a full-on psyop. Everything, it's not gradual. It is full. My dad told me one time in the 1950s, he went to high school then, and even in the late 50s, they started trickling in these new liberal professors, and that was in Montana, preparing the way for the protesters in the radical 1960s. So they do this. They set these things up, a decade or more in advance, and then all of a sudden they spring it on everybody when the frequency shift is right.
Unreal. And this time they're caught with their pants down as they're losing it big time globally. So they're more violent than ever, Ken.
Yeah, well, the great thing about it is the social justice warriors, they got to wear their little masks. They try to hit people with bike chains. But we saw some of the things when the bikers and the real conservatives step back. There's just going to be a swath of bloody snowflakes all across the landscape when the stuff really hits the fan.
With atomic wedgies. Did you see the atomic wedgies that these snowflakes were given?
I loved when they duct taped one of them to a tree.
It was electric block.
Sex toy on his forehead and called him a unicorn.
That's it. They duct taped him sideways on an electrical box outside, and they put "I'm a unicorn" on him with a dildo attached to his forehead. Antifa put it on their Twitter. How can these Nazis do this to one of our comrades? It was right here in New York.
Yeah, by the way, it's very
Diaper.
easy to tell the red diaper doper babies, as Michael Savage calls them. Every time that they use a label against somebody else, call you a racist, fascist, sexist, etc., it's all projection. They themselves are the ones who are the racist, the biased, the discriminatory. They're just projecting it on somebody else because they are so self-loathing, miserable, and haters that they have to try to project it on others. That's the thing I've been trying to say from the very beginning. What's the difference between Donald Trump and Barack Obama? Barack Obama is a narcissist. Trump is an egoist. And the difference is that an egoist loves himself and wants others to love him. A narcissist hates himself and needs others to love him to fill that void.
Right.
And that's why whenever you see the speeches, everything Obama says is I. What does Trump say? We. It's all encompassing. It's part of him. I'm the leader, but we are together because we love me.
Right. Exactly. With that being said, guys, closing thoughts. Deb, go for it. Make sure you plug your sites and your work and all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, my website is slaythebankster.com, and I promise I'm getting ready to wind down my Antarctica series. It's going to include some recent comments that may indicate that even the continent of Antarctica is subject to terrorist events. So that's where we're at in this century.
Nice. Wow. Awesome. Kenny.
One thing I want to suggest is people want to go to USA Watchdog, listen to the Wednesday interview with Rob Kirby. Rob Kirby posed a question. Is this sudden skyrocketing of cryptocurrencies signaling the end of the dollar and of the Western financial system? Because one of the reasons that we're seeing this, of course, in Korea and Japan, is they're all trying to get out of their currencies because they know something's up. They're just finding a safe haven. It's not that they use Bitcoin or Ethereum or any of these things for actual currencies. They're using it as a store of wealth in places where they might not want to do it in physical gold and silver. So I would suggest do that. And don't forget to go over to the Daily Economist, see all the updates we go, and of course, roguemoney.net.
Absolutely. Wolf, go for it, buddy.
Well, the narrative hasn't changed, and I'm speaking specifically to U.S. residents. I want to confine it to that. Even those who feel they're pretty smart via alternative media sources and elsewhere, they think they have, for example, as a good example, you think you've got the Federal Reserve figured out. It's not federal. I hate to tell you this, folks, it is. You can't be a fascist state and something that was corporate on a large scale not be federal, because they merge. The lines blend together. And as a matter of fact, at about our first bankruptcy for this country, or the first, I will say, default we had in 1933, the Federal Reserve became the whipping boy of the Exchange Stabilization Fund shortly thereafter, the most powerful Western economic entity on the planet. So things aren't always what they appear to be. And yes, those people that made those videos are right. The Federal Reserve wasn't federal, but if it's a fascist state, it's the system that's the problem. All down to the system. And I'm back to gold and silver. I stick on it all the time, especially for folks in the US. And it's very simple. It doesn't cost anything. That's another ingrained item that is not what it seems to be. You're exchanging currency, crap currency, for real money. The only cost, taking silver for example, is maybe a $2 premium. You're exchanging money. There's no cost to getting into gold or silver, because you can go to any country in the world and they will accept it. Not true with the dollar anymore. Get into gold and silver bars and coins, because if you don't do it soon, you're going to have to make an appointment. I really believe the day's coming where you'll need to make an appointment to get it, because the supplies are going to be limited.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's pretty much the only thing I'll say there. It's redundant, but folks need to protect themselves.
Or if the crap really hits the fan, find somebody that has a 2013 BMW 760 Li, the Rob and Birking edition. That car had Listen to this, guys. That car had 22 pounds of silver in it as trim. 22 pounds of silver as trim pieces. So imagine
Have
that.
a monster box because a monster box is about 41 pounds.
It's like having a monster box in the car, and all the trim pieces in the car are actual 0.999 silver. There you go. Just go rip that out. Find it somewhere. Somebody has it. With that being said, folks, we are over and we are out. Again, check us out on roguemoney.net. And you can follow us on Facebook. I hate Fakebook, but you can find us there. One day we're going to be on Gab.
Steam it.
Steam it. You can find us on Steam It. Rogue Money. That's right, baby. Represent Steam It. And, of course, Twitter, Rogue Money, at the Rogue Money. With that being said, enjoy your weekend. Happy Memorial Day to all of you guys out there. Enjoy your barbecues. Have fun. Be safe and be well. And we are over and we are out. Take it away, CJ.